It started the night his father left for the conference. The moment the car disappeared down the road, the house fell into an uneasy silence. It wasn't new for my husband to be away. Business trips were part of our routine. But this time, there was something different. His son, Daniel, had decided to stay with us for a few weeks during his college break. I had known Daniel since he was a boy. Always polite, distant, careful around me, as if afraid to say the wrong thing. Over the years, he had grown into a quiet young man. Kind eyes, thoughtful nature, and a calmness that reminded me of his father, but softer, gentler somehow. The first few days passed quietly. I cooked. He helped with dishes. We talked about nothing special: weather, food, classes. Yet there was a certain warmth that filled the space his father had left behind. I told myself it was nice to have company in the house again. It was during dinner one evening that I noticed him differently. Maybe it was the way he laughed, leaning back in his chair, or how he listened, really listened, when I spoke. His gaze wasn't that of a boy anymore. There was understanding in it, curiosity even. I began looking forward to small moments: morning coffee shared in silence, late night television when neither of us could sleep, his voice breaking the stillness with questions about life and relationships. It felt harmless, comforting, even. After all, what was wrong with a few conversations between two lonely people under one roof? But sometimes, when he smiled, I caught glimpses of his father, the same tilt of the head, the same tired charm. And in those moments, something inside me stirred, something I didn't want to name. I brushed the thought away. I told myself I was just missing my husband, missing the attention, missing the laughter. Yet deep down, I knew it was more complicated than that. By the end of the week, our silences were no longer awkward. They were heavy, charged with something unspoken. When I went to bed that night, I told myself I was imagining it. But before I closed my eyes, I remembered how close he'd stood behind me earlier, his voice soft as he thanked me for dinner. Maybe it was loneliness. Or maybe it was the beginning of something I couldn't stop. It happened gradually, like slow rain soaking into dry ground. Each day, Daniel and I seemed to drift closer without meaning to. We started sharing small moments that didn't feel small anymore. Laughter over burnt toast, quiet glances across the living room, the comfort of sitting too near on the couch. One evening, the rain was pouring outside, and thunder echoed through the house. I was sitting with a blanket wrapped around me when he joined, carrying 2 mugs of hot tea. We talked about everything: his struggles at college, his distant relationship with his father, and how hard it was to feel seen. I listened, perhaps too closely. He spoke with a kind of honesty that pierced me. And when his voice broke while talking about never hearing, "I'm proud of you," I reached out, instinctively placing my hand over his. That single touch changed everything. We both froze. His hand didn't move away, and neither did mine. It wasn't planned, not even thought out, just a moment too raw to hide from. I could feel his pulse beneath my fingers, fast and uncertain. When I finally pulled away, the silence between us said everything words couldn't. Guilt rushed in, but so did a strange warmth, like being noticed for the first time in a long while. Over the next few days, I found myself waiting for his company, listening for his footsteps in the hall. He'd help me cook, bring in the groceries, or just linger nearby. We didn't speak about what happened, but it lingered in the air: the touch, the glance, the feeling that we were standing too close to a line neither of us wanted to cross yet couldn't step back from. One night, while drying dishes, our hands brushed again. This time, he didn't pull away. I didn't either. "I don't want things to feel strange," I whispered, avoiding his eyes. "They don't," he replied softly. Unless we make them. But they already did. Everything felt strange. Too warm. Too easy. Too dangerous. I went to bed that night replaying his words, hearing his voice echo in the dark. I told myself it was harmless, that we were just two lonely people keeping each other company. Yet in my heart, I knew, the distance between us was shrinking, and it wouldn't stay harmless for long. That night, the house was too quiet. My husband had called to say his flight was delayed, he wouldn't be home until morning. I hung up, pretending to be disappointed, but inside, I felt something I couldn't explain. Daniel was in the living room watching a movie when I walked in. Want to join? He asked, patting the space beside him. It felt innocent, safe. But as the movie played, my thoughts drifted, and I felt his presence, close enough to sense his warmth. Every moment felt heavier than it should have. My heart raced for reasons I didn't understand. The sound of rain against the window, the dim light, the faint smell of his cologne, everything felt too alive. I should have gone to bed. I should have ended it there. But I didn't. When the credits rolled, neither of us moved. The silence stretched between us, filled with the weight of everything unsaid. And then, he turned to me, eyes uncertain, expression soft. I don't want to make this wrong, he murmured. His words were a warning, but they came too late. The closeness we'd been avoiding found its moment. What followed wasn't passion. It was confusion, longing, and weakness tangled together. Afterward, we didn't speak. I sat there, staring at the floor, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I wanted to rewind time, erase what just happened, pretend it was all in my head. But reality hung in the air, undeniable, irreversible. He looked lost, afraid to meet my eyes. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I wanted to answer, but no words came. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, every minute dragging by like an hour. I hated myself for the stillness I couldn't break, for the part of me that didn't feel anger, only sadness. By morning, everything had changed. And yet, we both acted as if nothing had. When my husband walked through the door the next day, everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. I greeted him with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Daniel stayed quiet, avoiding both our gazes. The house was filled with small, invisible cracks. Every glance, every silence carried a memory neither of us dared to recall. My husband chatted about his trip, unaware of the storm that had already passed through his home. Daniel left 2 days later. He hugged his father tightly, then turned to me, offering a polite smile, the kind strangers give each other. And then he was gone. The silence that followed was unbearable. I found myself walking through the house, touching the places he used to sit, hearing echoes of conversations we could never have again. Days turned into weeks, and the guilt grew heavier. I couldn't look at my husband without remembering what I'd done, what we'd done. His kindness now felt like punishment. His love, a reminder of what I had betrayed. Sometimes I wanted to confess, to tell him everything just to feel free again. But I knew it would destroy him, and maybe that was the real punishment, living with a truth that could never be spoken. I never saw Daniel again after that summer. Life went on, as it always does. My husband still travels, and I still wait for him, but the waiting feels different now, emptier somehow. I tell myself it was loneliness, weakness, a moment that should never have happened. But some nights, when the house is silent and the rain starts to fall, I remember that night, the quiet, the closeness, the mistake that changed everything. He never found out. But secrets have a way of living inside you, quietly, endlessly. And sometimes, when I hear the front door close, I still feel that echo. The echo of him staying too close. The echo of the night I lost more than just trust.